Hello, everybody. Get off my lawn cards. I'm Dan. Welcome in. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about two pieces of news that I kind of found as I was just kind of doing some reading on the hobby. The first one deals with PSA. It's what most people are talking about right now in the hobby. PSA has gone away from their $25 value service for the foreseeable future. The reason is a huge backlog, and the backlog is currently at 10 million cards, which will probably go up by a couple million as people were racing over the last couple days to get their submissions in under the deadline. And so, expect 12 to 13 million cards, maybe more, that PSA is going to have to grade. The word on the street is that PSA wants to get that under half of the backlog, which means get it down to 5-6 million perhaps before they accept any new submissions. So that is going to have a big effect, I think, in the next 6 months of the hobby. Um, and there were people on YouTube, like I watch Professor Sports Cards, and he's kind of an interesting guy. He was just blaming PSA. He's just like, "Oh, PSA is terrible," blah 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 blah. I think it's a sign of how successful they are, to be honest, where so many cards are being submitted, even after PSA has expanded and hired more graders and have more sites to do grading, that they're still underwater that much. And really, that's kind of what the hobby has spoken. And that's what the hobby wants. The hobby wants cards graded by PSA. And so PSA is kind of a victim of their own success. If I was a non-collector's universe grading company like CGC or Tag, I'd be rushing to take in those submissions. Even though I know they're going to be overwhelmed also. They don't have the facilities, they don't have the manpower that PSA has. But take them in. Once they're in your possession, you can do what you want with. I mean, if it takes longer to grade them, it takes longer to grade them. Um, the cheapest service that PSA has currently is $80. There's still going to be a lot of people that send cards in for grading. Now you're going to have to do a little more math to do it. Is a card that's worth $100 PSA 10 worth sending in and spending $80 to grade? Probably not. So I think in the next 6 months or more, you're going to see a lot more ungraded cards at shows, on eBay, etc. Will that drive the price up of ungraded stuff? As a seller, I hope it does, because I do have a lot of cards that are ungraded, that are in the, let's say, $1 to $50. So for me as a seller, I hope it does. As for me as a buyer, of course, I hope it doesn't. I hope it kind of stays the same. But we will see. We'll see what happens. Like I said, there still will be lots of people that submit cards at the $80 because, like wax people, people that love to bust wax, there's people that love to send their cards in a grade to get the PSA 10s. And so it's really not that much different. It's just a different form. It's just kind of a different form of gambling. Instead of gambling on getting the mega hit in a box of wax, now it's getting that PSA 10 from PSA. And it's very similar. Now, TCG is the big mover of this number. About 2/3 of cards that are graded in the last year plus have been TCG cards. Every month when you look at the gem rate numbers, TCG makes up 2/3 of the grades. And that's not going to stop either. Like last year, I just saw this today. There were 10 billion Pokemon cards produced last year. 10 billion. That's not a exaggeration. That's a number. 10 billion. So, as long as TCG is around and as long as the TCG bubble doesn't burst, it's going to be an issue. Like right now, if you just look at the raw numbers, like sports cards aren't the problem that's clogging up PSA. It's very clearly TCG. And, when TCG makes up 2/3 of your submissions, that's really the guilty party. I would say I think that there's more of a bubble in sports cards because of how few they're graded. There's kind of less and less of that stuff being graded. All right, so what do I expect as far as this news goes? My first news item with PSA. Like I said, expect lots more new issue ungraded stuff. The example I was talked about in the video I watched, Topps Chrome Baseball is about to be rolled out. Expect a lot more ungraded cards from, let's say, $1 all the way up to maybe $100, just not getting graded. There's going to be a lot more ungraded stuff. If you have a really good eye for grading, it would be to your advantage to maybe take a close look at some of these ungraded cards and maybe guess like what's going to be a PSA 10 if you're into grading. I'm not a huge into grading. I've kind of made myself clear on that. But that's an option. This moratorium on the value grading is not going to last forever. PSA wants to get cards in. They want to make money. They've got creditors that they've got to pay. I mean, they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in a PSA. And so the investors always want to get their money out of it. And so that's something that's not really talked about probably as much as it should be. People were ripping PSA, PSA, they're just doing this, this terrible company. No, they're actually really, really successful. Another thing, don't expect the other grading companies to come in and save the day. Pick up the slack. Tag has already said, we're not going to do any of our value stuff either. The cheapest card that Tag's going to grade, they're going to grade for $150. Like, that is just dumb. Take it as many cards as you can, even if you're going to have a backlog. You're taking up stuff that PSA doesn't want right now. Same can be said for CGC. But they're not going to pick up the slack. Number one, bad business practices. But also, number two, they're not built like PSA. They don't have the facilities. They don't have the number of graders. Immediately, there were a lot of people on YouTube that were just like, oh, yeah, well, you've got Tag and you've got CGC. They're going to pick up the slack. They're not. If you look back a few years ago when PSA had a glut of cards, SGC was there to pick up a lot of the slack, but now they're under the Collector's Universe, and they're basically being pushed into a ditch by Collector's Universe. A company that was really starting to make a name for itself in modern grading, SGC is just not that group. The gem rate numbers show it also. Their numbers are way, way down. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is an increase in postal rates that's coming in July. Because of gas issues and gas prices and all that, the United States Postal Service is once again increasing the postage rates. Stamps are going up and shipping's going up, and it's really affecting, I think, companies like eBay, where you're selling, and I'm sure it's affecting the others, whatnot. I don't know much about those. eBay, I've sold on eBay for a long, long time. It's increasing shipping costs. So as a buyer, it's harder to find deals because of shipping costs. Shipping costs are going up all the time. It's an advantage for card shows. I've noticed in the last couple of years, the card show attendance has been really strong for, local shows. I've been to a couple regional shows. Shipshewana, I was just there for their recent show. And then also the National. The National, which is coming up in 2 months, by the way, less than 2 months now. Numbers on the National last year were crazy. And I think the increase in postal rates are really driving more and more people toward looking at card shows. And I think, for me personally, it just kind of fluctuates. Like, sometimes I can get great deals on eBay. And then some days sometimes I can get great deals at shows. I think the balance is tipping back toward card shows, and the higher the postage goes, the more it's going to tip in the balance of going to card shows versus eBay or any other online where you've got to pay postage. Postage rates are going out of control. I wish that the card companies or eBay had enough pull with the U.S. Postal Service where they could work out some special deal. Um, eBay fees also going up; they never go down. Um, so I don't think it's driving anybody away from eBay. eBay is still doing huge business, but there's going to be a point where it's going to affect it in some form. So as the price goes up, we're going to keep seeing that. So buy a lot of stamps. Stamp prices are going to go up. I think July 12th was what I saw. So buy stamps. Try to get stuff out the door. Um, putting lots together is not a bad thing, but you just never get those. You just never seem to get good prices for lots versus individual cards. I know when I first started using eBay and started collecting again, I bought a lot of lots of cards on eBay, and they were cheaper. And you can still do that. As a seller, it's not always great, unless there's a lot of cards you want to get rid of. You just want to, you know, push a lot of cards to the door. I have a friend of mine that had a lot of junk wax baseball, late '80s, early '90s, and I put together big, pre-slugged boxes where you pay a set rate for shipping. You just fill the box up as much as you can, and I sold a couple boxes of junk wax for them like that, and it worked out okay. I didn't make a lot of money, but it got cards out the door. And I might look at doing something like that with a lot of, let's say, basketball cards or old football cards that I have or something. Um, but even those boxes, I mean, the price on those, like a medium-sized box, over $20 a ship. I mean, it's a lot. So those are kind of the two big news stories: PSA story, and then also postal rate going up. As far as where I'm heading next, card show wise, I might go to a show this weekend in Grand Rapids. Actually, it's one of the suburbs, Granville, Rivertown Crossings Mall. Never been to that show. I might go there. Also, I'm waiting for the NBA MVP buyback. I do have a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander X Fractor that it's burning a hole in my pocket. So I'm hoping that they will start taking those the week after, not this weekend, but next weekend. Legends has a show, and so hopefully they'll be taking those that week. If that's the case, I'll probably take that with me to that show, and I think it's $40. I think it's $40 worth of trade-in, which is nice. It's better than nothing. I think that is actually a great idea that Topps has had the MVP buyback. People always complain about card companies and what they, all the bad stuff they do. That buyback's really kind of a cool idea, especially when you have them. So until next time, Kitos, thank you. Like, subscribe. A shout out to all the people that watched the Ship Shawana video. I just totally forgot to shoot kind of the wide shot of the crowd. If you want to see a view of what that looks like, if you go over to Neo's site, he has like a rooftop look at what the show looked like from kind of up above. He does a good show. He does a good job with those. I've had the chance to talk to him once or twice at the ship show. Good guy, good cool dude. Just likes collecting. And so until next time, Kitos, thank you. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you down the trail.